Hello my friends, welcome to a new video. Today it's 26th of June, the Tuesday after midsummer, which is a big festivity in Sweden here. The days are longest, sun is going up early and settling down very late in the evenings. So we have tons of daylight now, also a good time to record new videos. And in May, as I told in one of the previous videos, I have been on a big tour with this bike, with my 701 Explorer, how I call it. I showed you that bike already in a previous video, and it performed flawlessly, almost flawlessly. I was surprised how well all the accessories work. Most of that stuff, like the windscreen, the luggage rack and the engine guards coming from Adventure Spec in Great Britain. And I need to point out here right away that I'm not in any way getting sponsored by Adventure Spec. I didn't get a discount, I paid all the stuff fully myself. It would be nice if they would sponsor me in the future, but right now I got everything on the bike that I need, so there's no need for sponsoring anymore, unfortunately. So I paid it all myself. But still, I want to show you one detail today, which is the front fairing, which is here. So if you ride long distances like I do, the trip I just mentioned was almost 7,000 kilometers. You for sure want to have some little wind protection at least. The second problem is also you need a solid place to mount your GPS if you prefer that. I'm still riding, or still, I will probably always ride with Garmin GPS units, currently a Montana 700i. Other people prefer smartphones, others are even using big tablets on their bike, but you need a solid mount for that. And that is what Adventure Spec came up with as the purpose of this mini fairing: wind protection and GPS mounting. It's a frame. You buy separately basically the frame, and you buy separately the screen. I'll come to the screen in a few moments because this is not the original screen. So let's take a closer look how this is mounted. You see that the metal platform and the frame, which you see here, is going basically under the handlebar, and then there's a very nicely welded L piece here, which acts as a mount to get this connected to the two clamping screws on the upper fork clamp on both sides. So Adventure Spec supplies, of course, also the longer bolts and these distances which you need to put in here to pass by in the line here. So that is a very solid mounting. Actually, there's no shaking, absolutely no shaking, rock solid. Might have the disadvantage, of course, if you crash hard and this whole thing gets a push backward. Hopefully it breaks here or bends, something like that, and it doesn't break anything in the triple clamp area. That would be really sad to have a damage here, and probably quite expensive, because I think these parts cost quite some money. Fortunately, I have not crashed. I have dropped the bike once. I'll talk about the consequence of that in a few moments regarding the screen also. And then there are several holes here where you can, for example, mount a USB charger, which I have here, with both the old style and the new USB-C output. You could have maybe a switch in here for some extra auxiliary lights, and I have mounted the cradle for the Montana 700 on some rubber dampening, as you see here. So this whole thing is a little bit dampened. It's not directly mounted on the metal, so that vibrations don't hit it so hard. You might wonder, what is that orange bag down there? That's a first aid kit, which fits in there nicely. And yes, it's a little bit improvised how I fixed it with this little rope here, but the GPS still fits in the top. And there's also another little bag behind there. I found space for that also, which is one of these base blankets, these golden, very thin blankets, which both keep you cool. If you're in the sun, keeps you warm. If you're in the shadow, and keeps off rain. Both in case of an accident, either me having an accident or somebody else having an accident. And you notice also maybe I got a little pen up here on one of these paper clamps, which is directly screwed here. That's something I can use if I have, for example, wet gloves don't work nicely on GPS screens. I can use that one here, very easily remove it. I got a safety line on it also. You might laugh, but well, it's easy to drop it, and then you need to climb off the bike. So it's nicer to have a little bit of a rope here. And then I can use that screen pin to navigate the small buttons on my GPS when the fingers with the gloves are actually too thick sometimes. Some of you might ask, what is that thing here? That is actually the Cobra, with 2R, Cobra chain oiler, semi-automatic you could say. There is a separate video in my channel about that one. I mounted it here so that it's easy to reach also. So let's talk a moment about that screen here, because you might, if you know the product, have realized this is not the original screen. Adventure Spec offers a few options. I opted for the clear one, which I think looks best. They offer also a few other color versions, I think white, black, red, yellow. Was there anything else? I don't know. But I'm not sure what materials these are made of. So what happened to me with the clear one, which I had mounted originally, is that I dropped the bike on the right hand side. My right leg was a little bit too short, and somehow it hit the screen, I think on a stone, and it cracked. And it didn't only crack a little bit, it cracked quite wide, and these cracks went through half of the screen actually. It also looked like if this thing breaks, it will break into very sharp, very pointing pieces. So from the point of accident prevention, if you ride off-road, maybe not the best material. And I'm not sure what we are using. I almost doubt it's polycarbonate. Maybe it's plexiglass, what is called, marketed as plexiglass. PMMA, I think, is the scientific name for it. So maybe it's that, because it shouldn't really break in these many very sharp pieces that it did. It was still lasting all this 7,000 kilometer trip, but now I decided it's time to do something else. And Adventure Spec is charging you 108 euros for that piece of plastic, which is quite a stiff price, I think. Yes, I know, it's not the material itself, it's the design and the production and the marketing and the storing and everything that is working in there, but still 108 euros is quite some price. So what I did, I had some polystyrene sheet at home still from a project I did on the 901, on the Husqvarna 901 some years ago, where I wanted to replace the rear storage compartment because it sticks out quite wide on both sides and it's disturbing the fit of my Moscow Moto R80. So I basically removed these two on every side and put a flat sheet of plastic on it. For that I needed to buy 1 meter times 1 meter 50 of this material, so I still have plenty of this white plastic sheet at home. So I thought, well, let's do a white one instead, and made it myself yesterday evening. Took me about 2 hours. So it's 2mm polystyrene. You see it's quite flexible. You can see that. It's, if I punch it, the middle is reinforced with a second layer just to give it more stiffness and to have easier mount. And I exactly followed the shape of the Adventure Spec screen by making a cardboard sample of it. And then transferring that to the white plastic. This polystyrene on top has the advantage that it's relatively soft material. This 2mm stuff, you can almost cut it with a scissor. It will not get exactly straight with a scissor, that's a bit of a problem. So I use a jigsaw with a very fine blade, saw blade, to cut it out. And then comes the problem with the bending. The original screen has 2 more bends in the middle. I didn't do those because that is hard to reproduce, but I managed to get a nice bend up here and I managed to get the bend on the sides here, simply by putting them on a big cutting board, kitchen cutting board. Yes, I did this all in my kitchen. Kitchen cutting board which has a nice rounded edge, and then I covered the rest with some other wooden cutting boards, not plastic, and heated up the folding bending area with a hot air gun with a fine 10mm nozzle, and then it was very easy to bend that in shape. Worked quite nicely. I think I managed to get it perfectly symmetrical. The upper edge is not entirely straight. I might need to work that out a little bit more maybe, but come on, it's homemade and it didn't cost anything basically. The second layer inside there, by the way, is glued on the outer layer with some mounting tape, the stuff you use in bathrooms to mount, for example, mirrors on the wall. So this should last very nicely and it's waterproof also. So it goes. Now, that's how it looks if you look from the side. Some people will say, this is horribly ugly. But I didn't want to spend all that money, like 1,000 euros or even more, on a rally tower, which is also much more complicated to mount. I could also keep the headlight where it is, so no problem with the inspection, for example. Okay, this is not the original one, I showed you that, it's an LED, but it has an E marking, so no problem with vehicle inspection. Another fly here. Anyway, this is a relatively simple, cheap solution, and the wind protection works quite nicely actually. I just on the way here drove motorway for like 10-20 kilometers with legal 110 kilometers an hour, which is the Swedish speed limit there. And I have no vibrations. Of course, I have a little bit of helmet shaking, but I have no annoying vibrations coming there. So again, it's a matter of taste if you like it or not. I like it, it's a different look, it's practical, and I have a very pragmatic opinion about that. If it works, then it doesn't matter if it's maybe not the most beautiful solution. It needs to work, that is for me more important than the look. And the look is a little bit unusual, so not everybody has that. So I'll be a little bit different, and I have no problem with that. So, can I recommend the Adventure Spec mini fairing? Yes, of course, I like it. It will set you back much less than a full-size rally tower, which normally goes for maybe over 1,000 euros. This one is, I think, 108 for the screen and something similar. I don't recall the price for the frame itself, so we're going to probably end up with shipping something like 250 euros, which is still a quarter of the price maximum of a full rally tower. And it works, that's the most important one. It gives you a rock solid foundation for your GPS or whatever you're using for your navigation device, and it works as a nice wind protector. So yeah, I will keep it definitely, and take a look at the Adventure Spec website. Maybe you prefer the colored ones. After my experience with this breaking clear screen, I would not recommend you the clear screen if you're really safety oriented like I am. Then maybe it's not the best material which we use there, but I'm not sure what material the colored ones are, so maybe they break differently. Ideally would be HDPE, high density polyethylene, which is the same material, for example, as the engine guard down there. That is really tough material which you basically cannot break, but you cannot glue it in any way. You need to weld it hot, meaning making both ends hot and then putting them together. There's no other way of doing that. But for a screen, there is no need to have several parts, so this should work. So HDPE would, in my opinion, be the best solution. And if I get my hands on a sheet in a reasonable, in a fitting size for a reasonable price, I might do another screen in HDPE simply because it's unbreakable. Being unbreakable, I wanted to show you, where do I have it, how this stuff behaves. So this is a remaining rest of that screen. So you see you can bend it quite far and it flexes back, so it's very flexible. Also the other way around. And only if I really overdo it, not even then. Now it broke. So over 180 degrees. And the edges will also be sharp, okay, but it takes much more bending before it breaks than the material Adventure Spec has used, and it will definitely survive an impact better. Okay, that is it. Hope you enjoy the summer. I will. It basically just started for me. I have now 2 months to go for the next vacation in August. Not even 2 months. No, wait, 1 month only. A little bit more than 1 month. Right, it's end of June already. Which I will spend in Sweden, maybe some motorcycle riding, some hiking. But no more big tours. I think 7,000 kilometers this year. That has been sufficient for one big tour, definitely. Okay, enjoy and ride safely. Bye.